Um, the talk that I prepared for today stems from this book project that I've been working on for the last few years. And I uh, uh, want to be able to sort of contextualize it before I begin talking about the future, sort of how I'm coming at this body of uh, literature that I've sort of stumbled on in the post-Fukushima moment when I was reading a lot of Twitter. And it's the 140 character novel, sometimes called a Twitter novel. Um, and I'm particularly interested in how this interacts with the news cycle. But just to give you a sense, here's one that's specifically on the topic of the future. It's a scary story that happened recently. My friend, who's a teacher, said with a serious face, if you can ask them to write an essay titled Future Dreams in writing class, they will all say, YouTubers, game commentators, and esports players. That's scary, right? I mean, everyone in the class wrote down these occupations as if they were the most natural thing in the world. So there's a sense that we've already sort of manifested the new world, even in the context of this short tweet. What's interesting about these is that they're calling themselves a novel in 140 characters. You have the standard twist ending of a short fiction or a microfiction or a flash fiction. And though other forms of literature appear on Twitter, like serialized fiction of much longer forms, I'm specifically interested in these 140 character novels. I've collected over 1 million of these, mostly in Japanese, though they exist in German and English and French and Spanish and Chinese as well. I'm primarily interested in the Japanese ones, and Japan seems to be the biggest producer of these from what I can gather from the Twitter access that I had. The first article I published on this, I didn't really have any access to the data. And this was just sort of preliminary reflections that came out in 2016. And at that point, this seemed like still a kind of silly phenomenon that maybe wouldn't last very long. There was a Twitter prize, Twitter novel prize that was offered soon afterwards, and I reported on that as well in this. I also, at that point, broke things down into what I call generic content or genres. And the genres I found were things like love stories. So there are a lot of love stories, and they mimic sort of manga and anime love stories, sort of lovers parting and meeting on the bus and things like this. There are a lot of allusions in intertexts, so allusions to other forms of Japanese literature often, as almost as a way of legitimating this kind of form. You'll have some of the main opening lines of famous Japanese um, fiction being mimicked here and then twisted in a different way. So one of the ones that I tracked was "I am a cat," the famous Natsume Soseki opening line of the book of the same name. And you have a bunch of wagahaiwa and, fill in the blank, and then it goes on from there, as if to say this is a true novel, right? Um, there are metamedial and self-referential ones that sort of are so interested in the fact that they're doing this online, writing a kind of new form of fiction, that they're talking about the form itself. There's a lot of speculation and experimentation and a lot of wordplay in these. And so that was just from this sort of initial thing, which wasn't very quantitative. It was just sort of my initial read through and breaking things down. But at the same time, I discovered something which was a little bit more interesting. I didn't know what to do with. I sort of ended that article with these tweets. So, hey, sea shepherders, why do you interfere with whaling? Do we have obligations even to whales? The truth is, you guys who act like humans are really whales, right? We need to test this. And with that, they decided to capture and examine the sea shepherders. And since it became clear that they were whales, the staff ate them with relish. Um, and so this is kind of interesting, and it's like a joke, right? And there's a nice twist ending and everything, so it fits all the form. But it comes out January 7th, 2010, the day after this event of a Japanese whaler ramming a Greenpeace boat that was trying to stop it from basically doing its research whaling, right? And so it's commenting sort of on this news cycle. It's interjecting itself into the news space. If you just think about how we receive Twitter, it's a sort of random algorithm. So you can imagine if you were reading about this event, you might get this joke sort of pumped up into your um, channel. Another one on Fukushima here next week. This is only the end of the month of March 2011. Next week, the beaming smile of the chief cabinet secretary appeared before the camera. I've got good news. At last, the plant has cooled, and we've found a way to completely remove the radiation levels from the water and the vegetables. Now we can all relax. People greeted this announcement with cheers and applause. With a grin, the chief cabinet secretary then revealed, April Fools, right? So this sort of kind of playing with the news cycle, and particularly this one, right? You might kind of start off reading it as something that with your news that you weren't expecting to be kind of weird or a joke, right? And then as you get towards the end, you realize how ridiculous it is. So these are the different hashtags. I put a couple numbers on here so you get a sense of the scale of the database that I'm working from. The ones I don't have numbers on, it's because I guess I didn't pull them. Sorry, but the big ones are the tween novel and the flash fiction one. Though they're all other ones like Twitter bungaku and Twitter poem, things like that, which are interesting. As I got into this to try to create a subset for my presentation today, I started thinking about what words could I use. And obviously, the words that already have come up here that Nicole mentioned, both Shodai and Midai came about. But then as I got into it, I started generating sort of other topics and created a kind of modern topic model to query my database with and pull out more tweets. So of those more than 1 million tweets that I have from the main database, I was able to create a sub-database of about 8,000 tweets. And so what I'm reading through for this talk is that subset of 8,000 tweets. Just to give you a sense from the Shodai ones, this is just a word cloud that shows the frequency of different words used. As you might expect, things like dreams come up, things like novel come up, but also children rights are associated. So if children are the future, or sense of self, sense of world changing. Midai is also here, even when Shodai is the main word. And this is the one for the Midai tweets. There were more Midai tweets in the data set than there were Shodai tweets. We can talk about what that means later. Here we also have the past coming up, right? And we've seen that in a lot of the talks today, but also dreams play into this and some other things. One of the probably not surprising things for those of us who are familiar with Japanese culture was the preeminence of Doraemon as a figure of the future in a lot of these, and people playing with Doraemon. So here's one. Mom, it was a young girl who came from the future. The child will give birth someday. It was a series of surprises, the mysterious gadgets from the future that are being brought out one after another, like Doraemon. So this one is like Doraemon, but then the next one is more actually Doraemon directly. Scientists got together and created a cat-shaped robot. It's still far from ideal. We don't know. I'm sorry. We don't have a time machine, so we can send ourselves back in time, but that's okay. There are many Nobitas all over the world. Whoops. All over the world who need this guy right now. And even if you can't send it to the past, you can send it to the future, right? So this is kind of playing with the standard narrative of Doraemon, that is a cat-like robot sent from the future to the past to save this guy Nobita. But here it's doing something. So this time travel thing actually comes up in a lot of them. So more broadly, we have time travel. And specifically, it tends to be related to an older medium of post, of sending post in the mail. And there are quite a few of these that came up. So I just put a couple up here to give you a sense. I was surprised when a postcard arrived in my mailbox. Hey, hey, is it true? I thought that civilization had already perished and that I was the last survivor of humanity. Outside, a half-broken mail robot continued to deliver postcards to destroyed houses. The postcard said, "Seminar information towards a sustainable future." The date was last year. Right. So you have these kind of reversals going on again and jokes. This also then gestures towards some other things I'll get to later on. That we still have love stories were a big part of this, just as I found in that original set. These were, as most love stories, generally between, kind of private situations between one or two people. Sometimes you get love triangles. But for the purpose of the talk, I want to move on because I'm more interested in the social level kinds of questions that arose in a lot of these looks at the future. I'll skip through some of this. And that a lot of those I would characterize as these kind of end of the world stories, which we already saw in that time future one with the sustainability issue. There are a bunch of these, and again, shouldn't be very surprising in the sense that if this is coming from pop culture and it's already saturated in kind of manga anime worlds, that the end of the world scenarios is one very familiar to these genres. But I'll just point out this one here. When Dr. Kurokawa asked AI about the future of humanity, after a long period of silence, AI came to the conclusion that humanity should be destroyed, connected to strategic computers around the world, and activated all weapons, including nuclear weapons. But the few surviving humans reproduced, developed civilization, and began polluting the environment again. So this idea of this kind of cyclical ends of the world, right? We'll clean it up and we'll end it again, and so on and so on. So that got me interested then in trying to do a subset of 8,000 and try to find all of these environmental ones. And I was able to find a lot more, some of which don't use Shodai or Midai at all, but they still seem to be talking about the future because they're on this topic of the environment. I don't know which one to read here. Let's see. The future. Yeah, since we're on the topic of robots, and we've done a lot of robots, robots have created a box garden and started to grow various creatures aiming to regenerate the Earth's environment. Robots reconstructed various plants and animals from the genetic information left behind and released them into the box garden. However, there was no human being in the garden. This was because the humans had once made such a rule that the robots cannot create humans, right? So it's, again, this kind of ironic twist ending. Here, I also find the kind of role of the media, or the self-consciousness of thinking about what it means to be tweeting in this way, to be prevalent in a lot of these end-of-the-world kind of scenarios. The thing that I want to kind of get to, though, is thinking through thinking about these self-conscious ones is what do people think who are doing this think that they're doing? Why are they tweeting in this way? And I think these self-conscious tweets give us a kind of insight there in the way that they kind of create a mise en abîme. So this first one is kind of emblematic for me. The present is created by connecting the dots. The past and the present is thinking about this, thinking about what you want to do and choosing to build a future for it, acquiring technology and applying yourself to your environment and incorporating that into the past. The self is not chosen. The self that is not chosen becomes something that is nowhere to be found in my time. So there's this sense of that what one is posting on the medium itself can actually change things. But I want to end with not kind of techno-determinism of some of these tweets, but to say that this is something that has been going on for a long time. The idea that that we always want to kind of look towards the future by thinking about the past, and yeah. So I'll leave it there since I'm running out of time.